What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Kart Smart TV. And had a customer drop me off an EZGO TXT gas with the 295 in it, and said it was smoke. And you know, the hotter the engine got, the worse the smoking got. So let's go out here to the golf cart and see what we got, and then we're gonna get this thing running. And I'm gonna run it for a little while till it gets hot, and see if we can see where the smoke's coming from. So it's just your normal old TXT. Obviously got a bed on it, got a little lift on it, some wheels and tires. It uses around his farm, and nothing super special. Pretty common for pretty much what everybody uses now to just do their stuff around the house. And so here's what we're looking at. And first couple of things that I'll do before I even take this thing riding, which I have done already, but I'll check the oil in it, make sure it's got ample oil. And then also I'm going to smell that oil just to make sure I'm not smelling a heavy amount of what is gas, because if you do that, at that point you can start kind of checking your valves then. Just trying to make sure and see that, you know, there's not something obviously going on with the carburetor. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up our air filter box here. I'm going to look in here, and I'm going to see if there's a little bit of oil right here. And in this case, there is a little bit of oil buildup there. And so what's going on here with oil buildup there, it's going to be blowing back through here, which this comes off of your breather off the front of the engine. And so what's happening is oil is being traveled back into this tube here, runs down the back side of the airbox, builds up down here, and then it will actually start to just suck oil in as it's running through the carburetor throat right here, and then cause some smoking issues. If you happen to see oil in this right here, you're going to want to run this thing with the airbox off and your seat off so you can watch and see how badly it's coming out of here. You may have a stopped up breather, or it could be in some case, for some reason, oil has just made it to the breather and has basically blocked up, or not necessarily blocked up, but basically held open the little reed there that closes off to be able to cycle the emissions, because that's what that's really doing, is the emissions that are unburned get pushed back through this tube, and then the carburetor sucks it back in so it reburns it again. Now, you can unhook it. If it's not puking out oil really, really bad, you can certainly unhook it. I see motors all the time with this hose missing, and it seems to most of the time alleviate any kind of spitting of oil back into the airbox, and so that the cart stops smoking at that point. But that's possibly what's going on here, is that when it's running, it's throwing oil into here for some reason or another, and that's what we're going to find out is why. So while I was out getting this thing up to operating temperature, never got it to smoke unless I stopped the cart and then got on the gas to take off again. It would puff out a little cloud of smoke at that point, but then it would just clear up and be fine. Well, I decided I'm taking the valve cover off, and I'm gonna look underneath here, and I don't know if you can see, but that valve right over there has valve seal popped up off of the stem. So it has no choice but to burn oil, because the oil is being let directly into the exhaust. And so that's exactly what's going to happen, because it's not a super common thing that happens, but it can happen. Alright guys, so in this video, when you're watching it, you're going to see how hard it is for me to show you what really went on and what I was dealing with on why that engine was smoking. So here's a head that you would use on the same engine, and when you are looking at your valves, when you get the head off, you're going to see your valves obviously in its spot like that. Okay, so on the top side you'll have your valve seal right here on this seat. And so you got 4 different valve seals in here. The trouble I was having was out of the 2 exhaust valve seals. they were actually popped up off of their seat, and so it was allowing the oil to slide down by the exhaust valve, and right into the exhaust it goes and burns. And so when you want to do this, if you see that, so right here is your spring and your retainer, and of course you would have your collets, your locking collets to lock to the top of the valve so that it holds the valve up tight. Alright, so what I was seeing is that the valve seal was way up here on top of this valve. So as you'll see how my process went, put air to it to hold the valve shut. I released my locking collets, got the retainer and spring out of the way. Alright, so what I was seeing was it looking like that right there. Now you might get lucky sometimes and be able to take a screwdriver, like a flathead screwdriver, and push it back down and it not affect anything and never pop up again, but that's not always the case. But that's what I was dealing with there, was the valve seal was up like that. Having the air holding pressure against the valve for me allowed me to get the old one out of the way and put the new one in. But a lot of times in new rebuilds you do the same thing as well. When you're doing a new install, you could push them down like this, and they feel kind of weird to me. They don't have like a, they don't feel like they have like a stopping point. It's like it just squeezes up to it, and it just, that's how it sits on there. But sometimes when I'm doing rebuilds, I'll push the valve up through there and start to kind of twist the valve so that it doesn't pop the valve seal off. But it has done that to me before, like pushing a new valve in, just pop the valve seal off, and then you got to do it all over again. But yeah, that was what I was trying to explain to you guys, is that sometimes these valve seals will just pop up just because, new or old, it does not matter. I have actually had fresh rebuilds before, and about 2 or 3 runs later the valve seals have popped up, which is what the case was with this. I think this one went about 1.5 years before that happened. But nevertheless, if you got a way to put some air pressure to your spark plug hole to hold your valves up tight, you can do this right in the golf cart, and hopefully my video will help you do this, guys. So if you notice that you got this issue, please continue to watch. Alright guys, so I was trying to come up with a little bit of a easier trick than what I've come up with for the time being. Just didn't work out the way I was hoping. So I was hoping I could get something to slide in between here and push down without having to take it off. But as you can see, I've had to remove the rocker arms, and it's not going to be a total pain in the butt, but you do have to move your fan shroud. Okay, you got to move your coil out of the way, and then you got to get your camshaft plate out of the way, which would be right here. And this long rod that you see right here is going to be what your rocker arms are resting on, so that they can do their pivoting to open and close when the cam comes around and hits it. Slide this pin all the way back, you get all your rocker arms and your spacers and your spring out of the way. And then, to keep the valve from falling into the engine, I have got my compression gauge attachment here that screws into the spark plug hole. So if you take your Schrader valve out of there and you screw this into the hole on cylinder 1 or cylinder 2, and you hook your air hose to it, it's going to keep enough air pressure there so that it'll hold the valve still, so that way you can unlock the collet and the keeper, spring retainer rather, the collets and the spring retainer. Unlock those, get them off, get the spring out of the way, and put your valve seals on them. So it's as simple as putting air to your spark plug hole, and then you might have to get like a socket or something to sit on top of the retainer to push down, because sometimes them things are really hard to let go. But the air should be enough to hold it there. At least it was for me, because I have put the new seals on. A little tedious to do, but it's not too bad. This keeps you from having to pull the whole motor out of the golf cart and pull it all the way apart. So it's very possible to be done right here in the golf cart, and you're seeing it happen right now. But yeah, we've got both old valve seals out of the way, and got the new ones on the exhaust side, because those are the only two that were actually out of place. These look okay. Not really sure why they did what they did. It's kind of just one of those things that happens that you know, obviously can't control what something does. But these are pretty much only about a year and a half old. Already done popped up off of it. It's not a super common thing to see, but it is something that I have had dealings with before. So I'm gonna put them in file 13, and then we're gonna put all this back together, and she will be good to go. Alright guys, there it is back together, and it is not smoking. I don't know if we're gonna be able to see it, but it's not puffing out when you step on the gas. But as always, if there is any excessive oil buildup in the muffler or the manifold, which I highly doubt in the manifold, but muffler, very, very likely case, that will start to burn off as it gets hotter and hotter and hotter. And so there could be a case where it might need a couple of hours of use to get that residue dried up in there, so it won't burn off and be smoking anymore. So just keep that in mind too. Just as a full-on brand new rebuild, it's more than likely going to smoke a little while after you get it put in, because it's going to be burning off the excessive oil you use to lubricate while you're putting this together, like on your rings. When you put oil on your rings and slip them in the cylinder, into the cylinder, some of it is going to drain off and into the crankcase, but some of it's also going to hang around and get burned off when it fires up and gets hot. And so some of that also would happen with a new rebuild, that there could be excessive buildup of carbon and or oil in the muffler. And so when you put a new engine in it, it still smokes for up to, I have seen them smoke up for like a month before they burned all the way out. So just keep that in mind. You may see some black stuff come out from behind the golf cart, or like in the floor here, you might see a little streak of black out of there. That's carbon that's being blown out. But this one we burned in the barrel for him before we put it all back together, because it was stopped up before. So we don't have any other issues there. I'm going to take this thing for another ride for a little while, and come back, pull the valve cover off, and just recheck the new valve stem seals, so that I can be 100% that one of these hasn't popped up. Because if one of those have popped up, we could be having a stem problem in the head itself. So I'm gonna put probably an hour or so worth of riding on this, and then we'll come back, open the valve cover, and check it out. But other than that, that's how you replace the valve stem seals without having to take the entire engine out. Kind of also shows you where to go to check for a smoking issue if your golf cart's smoking. Of course, you want to check the compression on it too, because if you got a little bit low compression, then you probably got oil blow by, and which is going to cause it to smoke as well. Hopefully this will help some of you out there if you're having an issue with it smoking. And as always, thanks for watching the videos, guys. We appreciate all of our support, all the support you give us, guys. It has only helped grow the how-tos for these golf carts, and we really appreciate that, because all we want to do is try to get as much information out there for you as possible. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us, either on the channel or give us a call. We do answer the phone, and I'll do my best to try to help you figure out what's going on with your golf cart. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and God bless you.